Hi, I'm Steph, and today we're talking about Boys vs. Girls Greyhound Edition. Now this is Tosh, my dog, and this is Niles, my friend's dog, and Marty. And Marty's not a Greyhound, he's actually a Lurcher, he's 84% Greyhound, so we're not going to talk too much about him, but he's a sweet boy and he's here too. Now my Greyhound journey started in 2018 and I just wanted a dog and I stumbled upon Greyhounds and I ended up getting a female Greyhound and then I got a second female Greyhound right here. So I've had 2 female Greyhounds, but I have friends with Greyhounds and when they're out of town, like right now, I have 2 of my friends' Greyhounds. So I've had a lot of experience with the different boys and girls of Greyhounds, so I want to talk a little bit about that today. Now I'm going to talk a lot about what I've heard from boys versus girl Greyhounds and things I've read, but then I'm also going to talk about my actual experience with these dogs and what I've kind of figured out. Now first off, the difference between boy and girl Greyhounds is the same as any boy and girl dog, you know that part, but when it comes specifically to Greyhounds, the boys are typically bigger in size, and so they're usually taller, they have some more weight on them, and they can just be a lot bigger. And in fact, when I went to pick out my dog in the adoption agency, they have crates on the floor, and those were all the boy dogs. And then they had crates that were stacked, so they were stacked too high. And those were the girls because they told me that girls could jump out of the crates and really none of the boys could do that. So that's how they separated in that way. And I think that's typically because the boys are bigger. Another thing that's different with the dogs is the way they go to the bathroom. So boys tend to pee vertically on things, so they tend to mark pee where they'll pee on things, not a lot, but just to kind of mark that they were there. And that can be an issue sometimes in the house, they'll do that. I have had an issue where I think 2 different dogs might have mark peed in my house, but I didn't see them actually do it, so I'm not sure who did it. But that can be an issue. Girls do mark pee outside to mark like their scent, but I've never had an issue with them doing that in the house, so that can be an issue with boy dogs. Now one thing that I found interesting was when I was adopting my first Greyhound, they told me that girls are not necessarily the best with small children because sometimes they become really protective and like a motherly towards that child, and it can be a little much. So they tend to say that boy dogs are better with younger children. I can say from my experience, I've never had super young kids around these dogs, but but all the kids that have been around all these dogs have done perfectly fine. The girl dogs were not like possessive or anything like that. Now one thing that they also say about boy dogs is that they can be more sweet and cuddly than girl dogs. And I will say, all the boy dogs I know, they are sweet and cuddly. That is very accurate. I have had 2 female dogs, and one was sweet and cuddly in her own way. That's what we're gonna say. And then I know another dog, female dog, that is sweet and cuddly in her own way, but not where she won't get on the couch and really snuggle with you. But this dog right here, Tosh, my little pup, she is the most sweet and cuddly dog there ever was, and she's a nice little lady here. So I wouldn't say it's specifically boy versus girl, but from my experience with the different dogs, all the boys are cuddly and sweet in the way that most people are used to. I'm not saying it's definitely one or the other. I had a foster Greyhound that was a girl dog, and she was the most cuddly, sweet dog. So overall, I think what I'm getting at is every dog is different and every dog has their own personality. And so you can't say all girls do this, all boys do this, just like you can't say that for humans. There are some traits here and there, but every dog is a little different, so take everything kind of with a grain of salt. They also say if you want 2 Greyhounds, it's best to have a boy and a girl Greyhound instead of 2 boys or 2 girls. Now, I listened to this, and when I went to get my second dog, I was open to it. So I really, in the back of my head, wanted another girl Greyhound, but I was like, you know what, if I find the perfect boy Greyhound, that would be great. So I took my first dog, Mac, with me to the adoption agency to pick out a dog, and she liked all of the dogs. She was very much a leader, and she liked to lead other dogs. So she was like, I could take any of these dogs and lead them, boy, girl, I don't care. So she was no help. And so it was down to 2 dogs, a boy and Tosh, and I really just fell in love with Tosh. And she was also nice and small and compact, which is nice because I'm just an average height and weight woman, and so I didn't want to have a dog that could like pull me. You know, sometimes they have a prey drive, and if they have a high prey drive, they might get a little out of control, which Tosh does have a high prey drive, and so sometimes I really have to hold her still. But she's about 62 pounds, and I can handle that myself. But then like my neighbor has Colin, and he's I think 82 maybe, 70 something. He is a big boy. And when he sees something, I really have to hold tight. And it can get a little, he can get a little too much for me at times. So keep that in mind also with your size, if what kind of dog you think you might be able to handle, might not be able to handle. Now, overall, if you are thinking about getting a Greyhound, the biggest piece of advice I can say is don't have any preferences. Go in with an open mind. And this is what they really want when you're adopting a dog. This is what the adoption agency wants, the rescue organization. They really want you to have an open mind, to be open to whatever dog connects with you. My friend Daniel, he thought he wanted a female dog because he met my dog Mac, and he just absolutely loved her, and he thought she would be a great dog for their family. And he went and he found the perfect male dog for him, his dog Max. He's the sweetest little boy, and that's the dog that they have, and it's perfect for their family. So you really need to be open to whatever dog kind of connects with you. One gender or the other, the color, none of that really matters. It's the personality of that dog. Now, I've been talking about meet the dog, see what personality fits, all of that. But I will say the Greyhound adoption in the United States has definitely changed from what it used to be. We don't have racing here anymore, so we don't adopt retired racers anymore from the US, but there are some adoption groups that are getting them from other countries when they're done racing, and then we can adopt them. So that's actually how my neighbor got Colin. He's from Australia, and my foster dog was actually from Ireland. So, but you don't necessarily get a chance to really meet them. Like when the person adopted my foster, they just said they wanted her based on some information, and then they got her. They didn't really get a chance to kind of try her out or anything like that. So that might be something that you might be hesitant about because you're not sure. What if we don't mesh? Well, most adoption groups, I think probably all of them, like if it doesn't work out, that's okay. They'll take the dog back. But I will say, like, every Greyhound is pretty awesome. Their temperaments and everything is very similar. Don't be too concerned if you don't get a lot of time with the dog. There's also other types of Greyhounds. There's something called a lurcher, which is a mix of a Greyhound. It's basically Greyhound or Sighthound mixed with anything else. And that is what Marty is. Marty is 84% Greyhound, and he is like 8% Whippet, and then he is Super Mutt, which is a couple other things in there. So he is a kind of a cocktail of things in his DNA. So there's a lot of different dogs out there, and it really comes down to what dog kind of fits with you, and just be open to that. All right, well, thank you for joining, and if you have any more questions about Greyhounds, I am not an expert, but I've had a good amount of experience with Greyhounds, and I love Greyhounds. They're just a very wonderful, special breed, and I hope to always have them in my life in some way. So thanks for joining, and have a great day. And that's Marty the Lurcher. He's just always lurching around. Hey, buddy, come on, I know. I didn't talk about you too much. Is that why you keep walking? Is that why you keep walking? So also, if you want to know more about lurchers, let me know and I can do a video about that. And I'll have Stephanie, who is Marty's mom, she can come talk more about him and some of his wonderful little qualities.